Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurs on Monocle Radio, the show all about inspiring people, innovative companies and fresh ideas in global business. Today we have a sparkling programme for you. We'll meet a record label boss and serial entrepreneur to find out how he juggles his many successful ventures and why he branched out into the world of wine.
In anything I do, I just try to put my best foot forward and really do it with some authenticity and truth. I'm up for that challenge because if it doesn't work for me, it will work for the next person. And that's actually a deeper thing.
This is The Entrepreneurs with me, Tom Edwards. You're listening to The Entrepreneurs. Dumio Barota is the founder of Severan Wines, a high-end sparkling wine brand that elegantly blends traditional methods with deep insights into contemporary culture, setting a new standard in premium beverages with their single vintage Blanc de Blanc. Dumi grew up surrounded by commerce, with his family owning a shop and a network of friends with their own businesses. Inspired by these examples, he began his own entrepreneurial journey, selling lollipops in the playground, working in his summer holidays at a youth club, and eventually selling phones. Dumi's work ethic and his knack for building enduring social capital eventually led to his starting his Disturbing London record label and playing a key role in the rise of prominent artists like Tiny Temper and Jessie J. Dumi stopped by Midori House to talk about his start in the music industry, his ability to identify underserved markets, and of course, his delicious new Blanc de Blanc Brut that's born in Africa and made in Britain. Dumi began by telling me about his lifelong passion for predicting what will be popular next.
I think over the years, and obviously, look, it's a combination, and it's taken me a while to quite understand this. It's a combination of being, yes, obsessed with trend culture, my family having a shop in the community, because you see characters and you understand what people want and what they need and the things that gel us all together. Then it's a thing of just having that entrepreneurial desire to create a business. So it's almost like all my skills or my passion points come together, and it's about predicting trend and serving kind of the uninvited or people that are underserved. And I think when it came to music, I'm a Black British man. I wouldn't call myself a young man anymore, but I'm a man, and I've grown up and I've seen the trends. I've seen from us listening to like ragga to R&B to R&B swing to the garage era to house to from obviously jungle, and I've seen those eras and how that's influenced the world, and I've seen where we're so fortunate that we've grown up in such a melting pot that has so much contribution from so many people around the world that sometimes the things that we create in this island that is England, and obviously the city that's London, there's such amazing export product. And as the generations have built, we are now creating our own identity in terms of what being British is. And I've realised, and I've always been proud of that, and I've realised what the strength of that is. And so my whole thing is, that's been the obsession. So majority of the time when I have got involved with the artists that I have done, it has been about shining a light on the people that I've been around that I know is the trend that people are actually, they want. And it's about trying to create that thing at the best of my ability and to serve that the underserved audience, because that underserved audience has so much influence and so much influence in what is popular culture. So if you stay true to that and you do it at the best, it becomes a very commercialized product.
Well, and it becomes powerful. And I want to dig into this idea about that catalytic moment, these different forces, things you observe, gut instincts you have, great people you happen to be maybe lucky to run into, yes, or that you seek out. And let's bring it right up to speed then. If we're looking at the Severan sparkling wine.
Yep.
Now, it's a departure. You're kind of making the catalytic moment a little bit, right?
Yes.
And, well, it depends the angle we come, whether we're talking about in the F&B space and the high-end drinks market, how underrepresented that is, or if we're talking about being a black founder, how underserved you are with capital. I mean, super embarrassingly, scandalously shocking numbers.
Yeah.
It's like low single-digit
low
percentage
single
of
digits,
venture
yeah.
money
I think it may
that
be
goes to
10%,
black-owned
or not even that.
businesses. I think it's fewer. It's crazy, crazy low. So the deck is stacked against you,
Yeah.
but you've got all these insights. Why on earth would you be like, this is the next thing I'm going to do?
Do you know what? When I started music, it was at a time when when we started music, they'll be like, oh my gosh, it used to be so good back in the day, and this is the worst time to get into music, because it was going from physical to digital when we got into music. And I ended up having one of the most celebrated artists in that decade. And so sometimes where there's pressure, or as they say, where people feel that there's no opportunity, there's actually massive opportunity, because that's where I think I thrive, because I think that's what the opportunity is. The opportunity is that it hasn't been done. And the question is why? And I'm always like, I'm up for that challenge, because to be honest with you, Tom, if it doesn't work for me, it will work for the next person. And that's actually a deeper thing.
Well, and are you happy with that? Because again, a lot of founders talk a good game about, I don't mind, you learn more from failing, and these kind of cliches, but it sounds like you genuinely met. So you wouldn't mind if someone was kind of riding on your shirt tails a little bit?
It happens. I'm going to tell you, look, I've done it with the music. If we didn't do what we did in the music space, there would be not this whole thing. Central C wouldn't be around. Stormzy wouldn't have come about. And obviously the people that done it before us, So Solid and all of that, it happens. Sometimes you are a martyr, sometimes. And at the end of the day, we done exceptionally well. And there's still been people that have done it better. I'm not saying that. Yes, in terms of my desire, and do I have...
You'll back yourself.
I back myself, I back myself. Not saying that this won't be the last one. I won't be the last person to challenge a space, or challenges where, like, diversity in the wine space, or diversity in any industry. So I do it for that reason. And the most important thing we can do in anything I do, I just try to put my best foot forward and really do it with some authenticity and truth.
It seems to be working. So come on, let's talk more about Severan. So I don't know, I often ask people, was there a eureka moment? You're sitting there, maybe you're drinking a particular champagne, maybe you have a favourite, maybe you're drinking, I don't know, is it some of the existing British sparkles, which are pretty good? And it's a real moment, wine-wise. What was that? Or was it one of these mad conversations?
To be honest with you, it was very much a eureka moment. Well, look, for years, when I talked to you about the whole garage era and the era that have come up, it was all about when you had the bottle of Moet and you were dancing to the music in the car, you was on top of the world. You thought, I'm the man. So, when we were younger, drinking champagne has fueled so much of the magical moments of our lives and what's been happening, So we always drink a load of champagne, and even with tea, I've obviously, and all my artists on their riders, we've drank a shitload of
I like to get it set out in the contractual stipulations.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That is the point. Yours on all of the riders, Dom P is always there. But no, look, always drank sparkling wine, always drank wine. Again, lots of the brands, I've done loads of activation with them and helped them launch a lot of their products, with some of the artists and the people I've worked with over the years. And they've been exceptionally supportive to us over the years. But then when you look at it, Tom, I'm like, okay, why do they actually work with us? It is an exchange. Yeah, we like being associated with the brands and getting drunk on the product or having some high moments on the product. But then you have to think about it. Why do they actually want to work with us? Why do we get flown out to, to do a skiing trip with Moet and do all of that? So there's obviously a massive value that we add. And in England specifically, when lots of premium and luxury brands are working with people of different ethnicities, up until the point of BLM, the Floyd moment, it wasn't so overt where they would say, okay, I'm working with you because we want to communicate to an ethnic minority audience or, grassroots level audience, or it wouldn't be so clear. So we'll just be working with you and I'll do activations, you'll be part of our whole experience. But then around that whole moment, a lot more people are being a bit more clearer with trying to increase their portfolio and communicate to a diverse audience. So when I looked at that, I was like, okay, there's a massive space here. And I was reading at Sunday Times a few years back before that moment, and they started talking about British sparkling wine and talking that people were buying vineyards and having vineyards in their country houses in the country. And I was like, listening like Tom, I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You know, some friends have got vineyards in the south of France or in France, and I would be like, oh, wow, that means I can get a country bar and have my own vineyard in the UK. That was just in my head there, you know, you got dreams and aspirations. So then that was part of it. And then I read another article where it was saying that actually the British sparkling wine produced a few years later after I read the first one, saying that we were actually competing and we were beating them beating the champagne brands in all like some of the wine competitions.
It's fighting talk, but it's true.
It's true.
In blind tests
Do you
and
know
stuff
what I
like
mean?
We'll get onto in a minute how you fare.
Yeah.
But tell me, I still get this moment with entrepreneurs where I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I see
I
see the logic.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, that broader context,
Yeah.
and talking about, we keep talking about social capital and equity
Yes.
and credit for things and all the rest of it. It still, though, takes another leap to then be like, right, I need to go out and find the vineyard and find the vintners and start the journey. What happens? Do you pick up the phone or do you just self in your car?
That's what I need to be quicker with how I talk about it.
But I can't.
No, but
it's the jump from thinking about it to then going and doing it.
Yeah, it's weird. With me, it's like you become like almost possessed. It's an obsession. I'm like, this works. And then you'll be running through your head and you're like, there's actually something there. And so then it's almost like when people say serendipity, certain things start happening. So then I done some strategy work for a brand, another luxury brand, a clothing brand. And then I realized, and they were trying to communicate to a diverse audience. And then I realized it was about imagery, how that changed people's perception and how people follow you as a product. And I realized that some of these luxury brands are underrepresented with people of race in luxury worlds and spaces. So when I was doing the presentation, I put some of my family holidays in those pictures in the presentation. And I realized, I was like, wow, this actually works. I haven't seen this before. And so then the idea about wine was in my head. I was like, okay, maybe I want to do a rosé. It started off with a rosé for women. And it was just about hands, Thomas. I was like, see if I took a picture of hands and different shades of hands and even jewelry and stuff and people's accessories, it kind of tells a story. And you won't have to show people's faces, but even if there was different shades of hands, that could just represent something. So that just goes into my head. Then I started doing a mood board, a Pinterest. My ideas start with Pinterest. So I started putting a Pinterest, a mood board together. And then when I put the mood board together, I started seeing that there was a world that it kind of represented. And I was like, that looks good. So then I started thinking of a name for the wine. And I put together a deck. So then when I was putting together the deck and I put together the presentation, one of my friends came, my son's friend's dad came to my house, who's now one of the founders of Severan. He came around my house and he said, Demi, what's good? What are you getting up to? I just was like, sheepishly just said, I'm trying to do this wine thing. And I gave him the deck. And then he looked at the deck and he went back home and he called me. He goes, Demi, this is a really good idea. And then I was just like, okay. It was the first time because usually, Thomas, I would have made this brand and put it in front of one of my artists or somebody I was representing, and they would have fronted it. It would have been my idea, but I would have just put them in the forefront because they're easy. They have the fan base. But then obviously from there, he said it was a great idea, and he's obviously raised money before. And then he brought me in. He was like, you know what, Demi, I think this is really good. We both put in a bit of money. He goes, I'll be willing to put in this, and I put in the same amount. We started on about 200 grand. We put in 100 each, and then we raised the rest. We raised within about 6 months, I think we raised about 600 grand. You know what I mean? And then that, through a friends and family, looped me with a lawyer, beefed up the deck, and we went out and tried raising through friends and family. And the idea, that's how we got there.
Again, you make it sound easy, but it's not as easy as that. And then talk about the brand, because this is a good story.
Yeah.
And I love the branding, but the name is good.
Yeah.
And it arcs back to this idea of things that are of a place shaped by something and somewhere else, like your own experience. It's a really nice tale. Tell me a bit about the actual brand name.
Yeah, so it's Septimius Severus. Yeah, he was a Roman emperor that controlled the whole of Europe and what is London City and the London City Wall. And over the time when I was doing the research, I was like, I heard about his story. Again, it's like serendipity. It's like his story. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So ethnic minorities have been in the UK and this region for thousands of years. And so then that just was a piece of information that was in my head.
The internal mood board.
Yeah, you know, it's an internal,
later.
filed away for later, exactly. So that was there. And then I was like, okay, interesting. So by the time I gave the deck to Matt, the name was called 11. So I'm telling you something. I just liked 11. I said I wanted to call it 11 because I like the way 11 could be like it's written, and I like the way it would flow off. I can have a bottle of 11. And then he was just like, nah, I don't think that's a good name. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe it was going to be called Severus. And then I was like, maybe let's call it Severus because I've told him about the Roman emperor. And he goes, okay, that makes sense because I thought a luxury brand needs a protagonist. And I heard about this guy and I thought that would be quite educational to tell people about him. And then we looked at Severus and it had been taken. And then I read a bit more about his life. And then he had a dynasty called the Severan dynasty, which was 2 of his sons after. And I was like, okay, boom, Severan, that works. And so that's how, and then obviously, so then we had that name. So we went out with that name and it was going to be Severan. It was going to be like the Roman. I had the Roman imagery and the bottle was going to be that, but around that. And obviously Romans, they used to make wine in Britain and they were making wine. And so I thought that works. You know, it's like Mr. Del Monte. You know, you need, you need that mythical like person. And so I thought that worked. And so then, look, after we did that, we raised some money. So then we went out to go and find the producer and the people that would produce the wine. And we went out for a British sparkling wine. And
so is that, and tell me about that, because is that,
yeah.
I guess you're obviously deeply curious by your character and you want to go in and like understand all these things.
Yeah.
Was that the moment where you just started pile in a car, pitch up somewhere and be like, so come on, how does this work?
So how it works, so then we're doing a lot of our research. So yeah, we did go to a few vineyards, but then we realised that, listen, you can't do it like that. There's actually people that are specialists in this space, there's consultants that find you wines and find you producers. So we got somebody to help us with that. And then there was we knew the palette that we wanted to go for. And I was more going for like Verve, to be honest with you, because I felt that Verve it's the champagne that no one doesn't like Verve. It's an entry point. I was like, if it tastes like Verve, it would be, I think that's good. We did a blind tasting. Actually, so when we were going around the vineyards in the UK, we realised that half of them, obviously, if we're going to do this, we need people that can supply a demand. So can produce at least about 30,000 bottles upwards, right? Lots of them couldn't do that. Then a lot of the wineries, the wine was quite cloudy. So on the pour, it looks quite cloudy. And I was like, don't really want to do that. So then, anyway, there was one time, so I was driving and I was like, why don't we go to South Africa? And then my partners were like, no, it has to be British sparkling wine. I'm like, well, South African wine, they do great wine. And because I knew they could supply the demand, right? And I read about them, they were actually doing it really well. So then anyway, what happened? So we did a little blind taste. We didn't tell the producer, we didn't tell her nothing. So we did some blind tasting with some of the, like about 5 wineries that could produce the wine for us. But then we had to pick if they could produce the right juice for us. So then we did a blind tasting. We had the Verve in the middle, and then we were tasting all the wines. And then all 3 of us, Dan, our CEO, and Matt, my founding partner, we all chose the one wine. And then she goes to us, you know what, guys, this is a wild card. She said, these people, the wine, the grapes come from South Africa, but they do this gorging in the UK. And they do the
So you didn't know that at the time? Wow, that's good.
No, Tom, I know you're going to think it's like something like a Blue Peter moment.
It's a good time.
One we made earlier. No, it's not. No, I'm telling you, exactly. It's like serendipity. I feel like sometimes I'm not going to get all spiritual on you, but my journey has been it's quite mythical. It's quite strange.
I like it. Sometimes
when people,
you don't choose the wine, the wine chooses you, maybe.
Big time. I think wine chooses us all the time. But yeah, so then anyway, that's what happened. So then it was this wine that we picked now, which is obviously Severan, and then it tied into the story of Septimius Severus, who obviously he was from Africa, but he made himself in Britain, obviously, and so that's our strapline,
I like it.
Born in Africa, made in Britain,
Gonna have a little look at it here. I probably can't take this off.
Let me take it off for you. If you
surely I can figure this out on my own. Been opening champagne since I was 30.
Good.
So it's very handsome, and it's kind of new school, old school.
Yes.
Is that kind of the vibe? In terms of label decals? There's obviously the sort of Roman motifs, which I think is smart.
Yes.
But it's nice. I like that it nods to history.
Yes.
It obviously looks forward. As you said, it's got this... the hero story has this interesting heritage. It's not easy to bind all of those complexities together in one elegant form, but you seem to have managed it. Is that like your creative direction, or is it a team effort? How does it work?
Well, Tom, I don't want to toot my horn, but this is actually my passion point, building brand and doing this. I'm quite clear with design and what I want, and as I said, you become really obsessed. And when I have the right people I'm working with, I can definitely get what I want or what I can see. I can turn it into a reality.
And they can realise it. Because this is often something that I'm interested to ask business leaders who we have on this programme, which is, as something grows and scales and begins to find its footing, by the nature of the challenge of the day-to-day, you have to
hand it over,
let go a little. But that can be hard if it's a passion play, and if you've got such a clarity of vision in your mind, and yet, like, you must have done this several times over the various things you've done. How do you do that? Is it just about surrounding yourself with good people?
Yeah, with great people. And they say, as you know, Tom, they say success has many owners. The point of business that I enjoy is the polishing of the rough diamond. It is that. I would say to you, that is like when it's the idea and you're putting it all together and you're pinging the team together and the right person and the right designer and getting the CEO and doing all of this and the right marketing team and the press team, me doing this with you, this is like the best time.
The fun
it's
bit.
The fun bit. That's what my passion point is. So I don't mind after that diamond is polished and it's ready to be shown to the world, I'm happy to hand it over and you do what you do best. You know, that is actually, and I'm probably... That's the point in which I start thinking about something else.
I was going to say, how long does any one project have your attention for? But just briefly on that point, interesting numbers, scale, successful, great engagement. I know there's a couple of kind of taglines and things that people say. Yeah. You know, my drink is no longer champagne, my drink is Severan. I mean, that must give you an absolute... There must be such a buzz to get that kind of endorsement. But what are the plans? I mean, and how do you calibrate it? Again, I ask people this always. Are you about... What's 2024 do?
Yeah.
Is it about a 5-year timeline? How do you...
Well, in my head, it's like, I would say to you, this is probably going to take... To get to where I feel, where I'll be really happy, is probably going to take... You know, you say 3 to 5 years, but really, it's probably going to take 5 years. But it could take 3. We're going to... June will make it our first year. And then maybe 2 more years, we could be in a really good place. But I think we'll really be in a really, really good place in 5. Look, the end of this year, we want to get more, like 30 more POSs. So by the end of this year, we have 100 points of sale, which is great. We're about to close another round. And then probably third round, I would like, this is when you try to get into the VC, family funds, things like that, a bit more money. This game is really about, it's telling stories. And telling stories, Tom, is expensive, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It costs a lot, but hopefully people like it if you do it well.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
What we try and do.
That is it, and it's luxury. Luxury takes time to really get people to buy into it and believe in it. It takes time. And, we're competing with some of the big players in the game. But I definitely think for us at Severan, it's about disrupting the space. And if we stay true to that, which we can, and we produce great product, which we're doing, I feel like the story is just going to continue, And I actually want to open it now, and I want you to try it.
But you're gonna make me drink on my own. Is this what's gonna happen?
Yes, but don't worry.
I mean, that's very good.
Stuff.
That's very good to me. Yeah.
No, it's good quality product. It's really good. You know what? It's got the bubbles are not too aggressive. It goes down nice. It's a drinkable sparkling wine. It's like top quality stuff.
And it's interesting. You mentioned Verve, because, the venerable widow, whatever she is. Because I sometimes get a bit of a hard time saying that I like the Verve Clicquot, because I think people want you to
go
but
you don't need to do that.
But that is and it's quaffable.
It is.
Deadly, actually.
No, deadly.
Why are you serving this to me in the middle of the day? I've got things to do.
It's quaffable. That is it. I'm taking that. It's very...
No, it's a real easy drinker.
It is.
Which I guess then people
Yes,
get more than
exactly.
they buy more.
Exactly. That's it. And that's part of it, Tom, too. It's like, this is
That's
about
really good.
sharing. It's about conversation. It's love. It's like, there's so much joy that comes from these bubbles, and I feel if it drinks well and people can drink it and it's not too aggressive, you can have some magical moments drinking it. And that's really what I actually want to do, and just shine a light on just great product and a great world, and just make people believe that they can be accepted in the world, of Severan, which it is. Because sometimes some of these wine companies or champagneries, or it feels quite closed. And that's just not what I'm trying to do.
Well, here's a question. So who's it for? Because I guess even if, when you're doing from mood board day all the way through then to strategic play, if you're talking to VCs and all the rest of it, they will say, oh, well, come to me, like, who are you selling this to?
It's for New Britain. It's really, look, majority of us, especially in London, the thing that scared probably everybody was that we live in London, and half of us probably didn't want Brexit to happen because we live in a little bubble, and we believe that we didn't think that was going to happen, because we live in a multicultural city.
It definitely caught us out in this building.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And that is it. But the product's for all of those people, and lots of people are interested, and we just need to keep on going and just keep on drinking nice bubbles.
Well, I think that's a pretty good note on which to close things out. To me, it's been such fun hearing
Thank you, Tom.
about Severan, a little bit about, well, the journey just here. I literally can't imagine what the next project you're going to cook up might look like.
Yeah. Just,
Are there a couple of things boiling away already, probably?
Well, for now, my main focus is Severan. I want us to, we've got an aged bottle that we're going to release. We probably release end of the quarter, probably by Christmas. We're trying to get the rosé ready for September. And so, that's really exciting because there's so many things you can do with that. This is my baby for now. And obviously all the other passion plays, just hopefully we can have more. I can do some more community stuff with it, trying to change the type of people that are getting into wine. And just hopefully one by one, every bowl we can just try to make, I know it sounds kind of kumbaya, but hopefully we can make the world a little bit of a better place with this product.
That was Dumi Oberota, the founder of Severan Wines, and you can learn more by heading to severan.co.uk. That's all for this episode of The Entrepreneurs. We'll be back at the same time next week. Programme was produced by Laura Kramer, with mixing and editing by Tamsin Howard. Listen again and find out more about the show at monocle.com, or follow us and catch up with the archive via your preferred podcast platform. To contact the Entrepreneurs team, you can email Laura on lrk@monocle.com. I'm Tom Edwards. Goodbye, and thanks for listening to The Entrepreneurs.